So Robert, why don't you share a little bit with us about your book or what you think is important so those who are watching this can integrate that into their lives as well?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that introduction. I know that's my story, the way it's written. Obviously, we write that in in a nice and singing way. So I appreciate that. So I wrote my book, Never Enoughitis. This really journals kind of this journey, right? Because I did what most of us do, right? I had a beautiful childhood in Holland. Actually, I was 21 when I left. I ended up in the States. I'm a very competitive guy by nature. And this country suited me really well because, it rewards those people that are, interested and committed to hustling. And so I hustled, I chased, I pursued, I attained, and the goalpost kept on moving because when I made a little bit of money, I wanted to make some more money, and I put myself through night school. I eventually went to Columbia Business School in New York. And then I joined GE in an executive program. I wanted to kind of cut my teeth in that big corporate world and see if I could compete there. Right, I'm a competitor, and I was good at it actually. And some parts I really enjoyed, but slowly but surely along the way, there was sort of an erosion of a disconnection from the heart, so to speak, because I didn't always follow my passion. And I talk about these things now in terms of, we all have this vision of becoming somebody. And this somebody is it's some psychological construct of who we need to be to actually matter, right? To be enough. And so we this is just a psychological construct. It comes from our upbringing, it comes from societal beliefs, potentially religious beliefs that we grew up with. And our parents in their best efforts, they give us, this is success, it's good grades, it's making a lot of money, it's being successful, having a career, becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or a business, it doesn't matter what it is. And so I got really caught up in that. And so but along the way, I got so greedy, I got so hungry. Sorry, I lost my voice there for a second. And, I found myself in GE, and I started to see the underbelly of big business. We see this representative all over the world in all kinds of things that can't really stand the daylight. But I was part of that machine. I was a cog in the wheel, an executive cog in the wheel, but I was still part of that machine. And it started to tarnish my soul. But yet I was so focused and so committed to my next promotion, my next bonus, my next whatever, right? Because I was becoming somebody, I was becoming important, I was becoming influential, I was becoming like, what the world deems a success. And really what I wanted to, very deep buried underneath that, I wanted my father to see me. I wanted my father to be proud of me, right? And so there was a deep wound that was fueling this desire. And eventually I went into business for myself. I developed airports around the world, airport real estate around the world, infrastructure. I got into private equity, venture capital. The business kept growing, the money kept getting better. But it never really truly, it gave me these fleeting moments of joy, but then the goalposts would move again, because as soon as I made my first $1 million, there was another guy that made $2 million. So now, the goalpost moved, right? And it doesn't matter how many zeros are there. It's really all irrelevant, to be honest. But I kept chasing and never quite getting there. Now in 2015, I had this kind of sea change moment where I sold a very large part of my business, about 80–90% of my business, in a large transaction. All my Latin American operations, which now span 3 countries, all the assets, everything was sold. I had a whopping payday. And I remember flying back from Bogota, where the headquarters were, to Miami, and I had made it, right? I had reached the proverbial mountain peak. I was in my early 40s. I think I was 43 or so. And I was flying back, just made millions, had made millions over the years before, right? So I was, maybe not enough to retire, maybe it was, but, I was financially secure, right? And I flew back to Miami, where I had a wife and 3 beautiful kids. I lived in an oceanfront community in a very, very opulent villa, right? I had all the cars and toys and exotic vacations. I had everything. Literally, I had everything. I had made it. And I was asking myself, why do I feel so empty?
Mm.
Why do I feel I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, what else do I need? Why doesn't this fill me up? What is this void, right? Now, in hindsight, I now know that that was an awakening moment for me, because what the universe was really telling me is, okay, this is this part of the movie. You've seen it now, right? And you've experienced that. So now we're going to guide you on a different path. Now we go from seeking our happiness and success and joy and fulfillment in the outer world. We're going to show you that truly all of that lives in the inner world, from which you're so fucking disconnected, right? Because my heart was closed. That was kind of protective mechanism, right? Because I was feeling a lot. I always had a lot of intuition. This is one of the reasons I was so attracted to your course that I did in 2016, because I had all these things, but I always dismissed it. And if you allow me to talk a little bit more, I have an interesting background, because my father was in Holland, a high-level CEO. So, a hardcore business guy, right? A product of World War II. He lost his father when he was 3. He had what's called the Hunger Winter in 1945. He had Nazi soldiers raiding his house when he was 5 years old. This was a man tarnished by his early childhood experiences. And then he grew up in poverty, because right after the war, Europe was devastated, right? And the Germans had robbed Holland empty. I mean, all the production assets were stolen and retrieved to Germany when the Allied forces basically made progress. So, Holland, it took years for Holland to basically find its footing again, and for the economy to come back, and the rebuilding to start. And then obviously the Marshall Plan helped a lot. So this was the fishbowl that my father grew up in, and that became his reality. And his reality was, life is hard, right? Life is tough. Life is unforgiving. There is no God. Life is brutal. You have to do it all yourself. You have to, fight. You have to hustle. Nobody's going to save you. Nobody is here to help you. It's like you're all on your own. This was his life experience in his childhood. Now, these realizations came only very, in recent years. But that programming was instilled in me in my upbringing, because that's all he knew, right? And he made a very big success out of himself, but it was always colored by this information that was this programming that was driving his life. Now, my mom, who's still alive, my father passed away. My mom was a very interesting, she had a very successful women's boutique. And then in her early 40s, she had an awakening experience, and she went totally the other way, and she became an astrologist and a graphologist. And so in my mid-teens, my brother had already gone to college and the draft in the army, and they were out of the house. So I was the only kid left. And she was kind of finding this path in her life. And she would take me to doctors that would read my aura. And she would take me to tarot readers, and she would talk to me about astrology. And I was fascinated by all of it. She would share her books with me. I was absolutely captivated by it. But if I would speak of any of this to my friends or they would look at me like, you're a freaking weirdo. So this part of me that was always there, right, got completely suppressed, because I was like, I can't really talk about this. People think I'm a weirdo. Right. So I had no way to express it. And and it was funny, because about a year ago or 9 months ago, my now ex-wife moved out of our marital home. And so, we're cleaning up all this stuff, and I'm finding some of my books. I was reading Aristotle and Socrates at 19. Not because school wanted me to do it, because I was interested in philosophy. I was interested in learning these things. And then that got suppressed. So in 2015, I have this sea change moment. And I do like I do everything in my life. I was like, well, I got to figure this out. And so I started reading every book I could. I started going to workshops, retreats. I eventually became a certified yoga teacher. I did your course. I did 100 million other ones. And eventually I started piecing together, what really the intelligence of life is all about. And so, here we are. I went through a divorce eventually in September of 2017. I had a business that got wiped out. That was the epic fall from grace. My marriage ended. My balance sheet fell apart. So now the man that had always associated his net worth with his self-worth, now the universe had just stripped him naked. And so these are all the gifts wrapped in sandpaper that we get, so we can gain a deeper understanding of life.
If you would like to watch more videos like this, then please subscribe to my channel below. Once again, my name is Stephen Dobos, and you can download a free centering exercise. The information is in the description box below.